Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Hope you're having a pleasant evening. Got a little bit to report to you tonight. So share it out. Let people know the show's going on. Invite people to join you. We're broadcasting on Facebook Live, YouTube at Duke1517, and on Twitch at A Mexican Crossing Lines, and on the air at 88.1 KPPP LP, bringing local color to your airwaves.
That's right. We're going to be talking about people of color today.
Yeah.
Specifically, we're going to be talking about hate crimes. So,
buckle your seatbelts. It's going to be a doozy. We're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. We're going to let the music go for a little bit longer and bring some more people in, and then we'll get to it. We'll get to the show.
welcome everybody. Call your friends in. It's going to be a good one.
You can find out more information about us at kpppfm.com. You can also support our work by making a tax-deductible donation at kpppfm.com/donate. Also on YouTube Super Chat, you can also contribute some money by hitting the $ and making a donation.
That's right. We depend on the support of listeners and viewers like you. So thank you very much for supporting independent local broadcasting. Hey everybody, welcome to A Mexican Crossing Lines with your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM, KPPP LP. Fargo, Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves, where we are bringing you the topics that we need to talk about in this community and throughout our country. That topic tonight is about the increased hate crimes. Yes, hate crimes, meaning motivated by animus of another race, motivated by othering of another human being, whether it's because of their race, their religion, their gender identity, their gender or their identity. And the increase has come during a Trump administration where we had a president that was using terms like Kung Flu to refer to the pandemic, that was, in the face of an increase in supremacist hate crimes against multiple people of color races that included Latinos, blacks, and Asians, and Pacific Islanders, there was not a response commensurate to the situation that was unfolding in our country, that has been unfolding. I mean, hate crimes have been a thing that for too long we have failed to properly identify in this country.
Yep.
We twist ourselves into pretzels in this country, especially our law enforcement, to deny that racially motivated hate happens, that there is prejudice involved. They want to say that it's for some other reason, any other reason than racism. But yet, it's still there. Can you believe, Duke, that we still don't have an anti-lynching law in the federal government?
Yeah.
We still don't have hate crime legislation to punish this type of behavior.
Exactly. And it's been up to the states and law enforcement agencies, and I always thought that, how come they're not charging this as a hate crime? Is it too much work or something? Are they scared the charges aren't going to stick if they have enhanced punishments? We've gotten fights with people over this that they think, why do you even need to have a higher charge because of that? And it's like, because people of color have been oppressed in this country, and our punishment does not reflect what it really should be.
Because it's a form of terrorism, Duke.
Yep.
It's beyond just an assault, right? There's no logic behind the animus, the hatred that compels people to do these kinds of crimes, like the crime committed by this gentleman, or this man, this very young man, 21-year-old, who committed this heinous crime. So let's get into the details of this crime, because we've seen that the media has already started to soften the image of this domestic terrorist. Let's call him what he is.
Yep.
Robert Aaron Long. First, I wanted to talk about the crime that he committed. He shot and killed 8 people and injured another person on top of that. The rampage began at Young's Asian Massage in Ackworth in Cherokee County.
In Georgia.
This is in Georgia, correct? And 2 people were killed at that first location. One of the persons succumbed to the injuries on the way to the hospital and then died while they were in treatment, according to the sheriff's office. The victims were 2 women, 2 Asian women, a white woman, and a white man. And a Hispanic man was also injured in the shooting and rushed to a hospital for treatment. About an hour later, 30 miles away, 2 spas on the same Atlanta street, Gold Spa and another named Aroma Therapy Spa, were targeted, and 4 Korean women were killed in that. It has since been learned that this young man, Robert Aaron Long, planned on going to Florida and carrying out more crimes against what he called people in the porn industry. Okay? So far, the police have, said that he has admitted, he accepted and admitted that all of these shootings were by him. And people are trying to figure out more about his background because, and I don't know why this is still happening. We're like in the 21st century. This is 2021. Like, we should be able to look at a situation like this and not end up caught in a fight over whether or not we think this was racially motivated, which is a nice way of avoiding saying that this is a racist act, that this was an act of domestic terrorism by a racist, by a white supremacist.
Why do people want to protect him so much? I just don't understand that. Got to protect this guy, this nebulous guy that you don't even know, and has done the heinous things, killed 8 people, like in a matter of hours.
You really want me to answer what I think? Well, let's go to his Instagram tagline. I think it's important for you to see what, this is from his own Instagram account, what his tagline said. It said, "Pizza, guns, drums, music, family, and God." That pretty much sums up my life. It's a pretty good life. Pizza, guns, drums, music, family, and God.
Wow.
This young man went to a Baptist church. He's a Christian, and according to people that attended high school with him, they said that he was incredibly shy, innocent. Yes, the word innocent was used to describe him in high school. And I don't know exactly what that innocence is referring to. But given the fact that he felt such a tremendous pull, he was being lured like sailors by a siren in the ocean to these spas, these Asian-owned, Asian mostly run, and having mostly Asian employees, because they represented a point of addiction for him. He has a sex addiction, he told the police. And those women in those buildings were drawing him. You know, he was being tempted by the temptresses inside of the spas.
Huh.
So that's why he had to go and shoot them and kill them. And I know it sounds like the plot of the Hunchback of Notre Dame, the character Frollo, where he has to get rid of all the gypsies because he is in love with the gypsies and he is tempted to discard his godly oath to be a holy man. So he has to go and eradicate the gypsies.
Wow.
What do we have in this situation?
Crazy.
This is what the police are spreading in the media, right? This is the police are saying to the media. He was having a bad day.
Having a bad day.
Well, hear for yourself. This is what the officers from Cherokee. This is the chief of police of Cherokee County, the Cherokee County Police Department. Here we go.
The suspect did take responsibility for the shootings. He said that early on once we began the interviews with him. He claims that these, and as the chief said, this is still early, but he does claim that it was not racially motivated. He apparently has an issue, what he considers a sex addiction, and sees these locations as something that allows him to go to these places, and it's a temptation for him that he wanted to eliminate. Like I said, it's still early on, but those were comments that he made.
Asian woman represents an addiction that he needed to eliminate. Mm-hmm. How does anybody interpret that as not being racialized?
Exactly.
How do you interpret the fact that in a country where Asian women are fetishized, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't recommend that you do this, but there are entire porn sites dedicated to the fetishization of Asian women. Let's not pretend that this isn't a kink, that this isn't a thing.
Yeah.
And this man, whose father is a youth pastor, who, according to his friends from school, was very much involved in his Christian upbringing and his church. These are a good Christian family. Okay? This is a temptation he couldn't have living and breathing in his midst. How could he go on from day to day? By the way, he bought the gun hours before he went and murdered all of these people.
Wow.
So it wasn't like he was at home, he had a gun. The pandemic's been hard on him, and he was having an especially bad temptation day with those Asian spas. Just blaring temptation at him. No, he went out and got that gun. Mm-hmm. He went out and got that gun that day and decided hours after he purchased it, he was going to go and mow down these people.
Yeah, it sounds premeditated then to me, I know he's been charged with eight murder charges, and but the premeditation is obviously, and also made me think of how easy is it to get a gun. You know, it's a lot more difficult in Minnesota. I mean, you have to fill out a lot of forms, get these background checks, and you have to usually wait some time before you get given.
Oh, there's no grace period in this state. No, you can go get that gun and turn around and use it to murder people in an hour after you've purchased it. Immediately after you've purchased it. There's no waiting period there.
Wow.
But you know what? We've passed 280 some laws against voter fraud.
Oh, yeah.
Because 2 cases of people voting for dead people were found, or, some such nonsense. We've got you have a couple of situations. This is something that happens, as I said in my program recently, according to that MIT study, for the last 20 years of voter fraud. It happens 0.00006% of the time. And yet we're enacting a slew of laws to suppress votes that are going to make it harder for people of color to vote, that are going to basically bring back Jim Crow in terms of voting rights. But you need a gun to go mow down a bunch of tempting Asian spas? Have at it. That's America for you. That's the country we live in. And to make matters worse, white folks in this country, after each such attack, even when they tell you, hey, a white man went to 3 different Asian-run businesses and killed mostly Asian people at a time when Asian hate crimes have risen 100 and some fold % in this country. And people still scratch their heads and go, well, that can't be racially motivated, can it? No, of course not. And the reason why, and I mean, it brings me no pleasure to tell you this, Stu, because I love me some white people, but I got to say it because it's the truth. White people are horrified that this could be them. Is it that easy to lose your mind and go and murder a bunch of people of color because your supremacy and the lack of punishment, the lack of accountability in this country for hate crimes is going to allow you to get away with it? Yes, it is.
Yep, you can't even admit there's racism, because then you might look at yourselves. Oh, I could be racist, and that can't be. So total denying that this person did this motivated on racism.
How many videos have you seen of Karens and Kens getting caught being racist, using the N-word? I mean, wasn't it just last week that a sports announcer was caught using the N-word, referring to a group of mostly people of color, women of color basketball players, and he blamed low blood sugar?
Yeah.
How many times do we have to see videos of women like the one that was caught calling the cops on a black man after she was being filmed by the same black man for having her dog off leash in a park that was a bird sanctuary where she wasn't supposed to have the dog off leash?
Yeah.
In order to threaten his life by cop call, by Karen complaining calls to the cops. How many times do we see this video play out over and over again? And what is the reaction every single time to being caught being racist on tape? What do these people say?
That's not me.
That's right. They literally say, that's not me. We can see with our eyes it is you. It totally is you.
Well, I had amnesia for a minute and forgot I was me, and I was out there acting. I watch them, and there's like, it wasn't you, or that's just not. It's not the way I am now.
It was just the way that you were at that moment. So, are you saying you were possessed?
I think so.
Are you admitting that you had no control over what that thing that took you over that wasn't you? Because that's what it sounds like to people of color watching this unfold time and time and time and time and time again, after each person who is the sweetest Christian, the kindest, least racist person, has no racist bones in their body. They're the most colorblind person in the world, so they say, after they get caught being racist. And the reason for it is because white people are terrified that what lies just below the surface inside of them could produce some kind of very embarrassing situation, or even that there could be a killer of people, a racist killer of people among them. Yes, because everyone is shocked that this guy who they called a nerd, an innocent Christian nerd, where was this hiding?
Yeah.
Well, ask yourself who the proponents are of mass shootings in this country. The majority of them are white males. White males. And they have a grudge. They have some anger that's pent up and it's sitting there. And when it comes out, this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
And here is what the Korean news in the area produced. You won't see this in the mainstream media because they're not reporting what witnesses that worked at one of these spas saw and heard. But this comes from a Korean newspaper, which I Google translated into English, so you'll have to forgive me if it sounds a little, choppy or English. Mm-hmm. But here's what it said. This is the translation. It said a total of 8 people were killed and 1 was injured in a series of shootings in Atlanta, Georgia, and 3 nearby Asian massage parlors on the afternoon of the 16th of March. Local Korean media reported that he made a remark, "I will do this." The shooter said, "I will do this." And the shooter also said, that he would kill all Asians. So on the 17th, the Hankook Ilbo Atlanta quoted an employee of the massage parlor, the Gold Massage Spa, when the shooting took place, that said that the suspect at the time of the crime said he would kill all Asians. This person happened to be there to pick up an employee, right? Mm-hmm. And the employee managed to get out of there, managed to evacuate, and then conveyed this information to nearby Korean businesses. It was also reported in the same article by Korean media, okay, that the police had actually gone to other spas in the area in the wake of the original shooting and told other Asian businesses that this was likely racially motivated and they should probably close their doors to avoid having this spree end up on their doorstep. Mm-hmm. So the police they had enough of a forethought to go, oh snap, it looks like a white supremacist is going around shooting Asian people. Mm-hmm. Let me tell these other Asian businesses on this street to close up.
That's right, hunker down.
But they won't say that on the news. And it's very problematic that we can't have a conversation, that we can't tackle this issue. What are we so afraid of talking about
exactly
this issue for? But let me share with you, this does come from the Asian media. This was a tweet from Alex Jung, who reported that Chosun, I don't know if that's how you say it or not, but you can check it out, chosun.com. It's in Korean, so you'll have to use the Google Translate feature, but this is the article that I just showed you the excerpt from, if you want to go check out the whole thing for yourselves. The Korean media is different than the mainstream media. Yes, the Korean media got involved because, this racist man who decided he needed to get rid of the Asian women that tempted him, he couldn't have been living in this country unless he was living under a rock and not heard the disparaging comments, the rise in hatred against Asian people, Asians and Pacific Islanders in this country. Just last week we saw somebody that from that community attacked in their Uber.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And had their mask ripped off and have their faces coughed on. Those kinds of attacks have been running rampant. And this has been going on the entire time that President Trump has been in office, the rise in hate crimes, because of his rhetoric and because of the fact that he has never disavowed the support that he has from white supremacist groups, including the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, which he claimed he didn't know
That's
what
right.
that was
Yep.
when they asked him about it. He also claimed he didn't know what QAnon was. Like, we're supposed to believe that the president didn't have any idea what those were. Like, even if he didn't get press briefings every day, even if he didn't get reports that told him about domestic threats like, white supremacists in this country, which we know he did receive, it would be very hard to believe that something as prolific as, QAnon or the Ku Klux Klan wasn't on his radar.
That's right.
I fail to believe that. I think that's a lie. And I feel like it's a lazy lie because all of us can see past that. But the fact of the matter is that the rhetoric, the anti-Asian rhetoric, really ramped up when the coronavirus started spreading.
That's right.
And it was not because Asian people are more contagious than any other humans on the earth. Asians don't spread the virus. The coronavirus is spread through human transmission of any human.
That's right.
Right? They're no more contagious than any other person. But the fact that the focus was put on Asian people led to products from that country being boycotted, products from Asian countries and Asian businesses being boycotted, including people not eating Chinese food or sushi in this country, and people being attacked no matter what country or what Asian or Pacific island they came from, which includes this situation where Korean women were killed, as well as other Asian people. But remember that this began with our very own President Trump calling this the China flu, the Kung flu, and using disparaging names about Asians and Pacific Islanders. And this is March 20th of last year.
Okay.
Right as, the pandemic was, where we were getting shut down, when the whole country was shutting down, and the rise of Asian hate was happening in this country. And this is what President Trump said when he was questioned about why he continues to stoke those fires.
You keep calling this the Chinese virus. There are reports of dozens of incidents of bias against Chinese Americans in this country. Your own aide, Secretary Azar, says he does not use this term. He says ethnicity does not cause the virus. Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China. That's why. It comes from China. I want to be accurate.
About Chinese
Yeah, please,
in
John,
this country.
please.
The aides behind you. Are you comfortable with this term?
I have great love for all of the people from our country.
Right.
If you have great love for all of the people from your country and somebody tells you that a certain group of those people, Asians and Pacific Islanders specifically, are being targeted because of language you used, why would you not stop? Why would you not just change that behavior?
Yeah,
when you know. I mean, it's one thing to be told. It's one thing to use that terminology. Lindsey Graham was asked about it too, because a lot of members of Congress that are friends with the ex-president were asked about his use of that, those terms, those disparaging terms. And he said, well, that's not racist. I mean, the Spanish flu was called the Spanish flu. Guess what? Lindsey Graham doesn't know history, but that was considered a racist term because, and this is also true, at the time the Spanish flu was named that, it caused bias and hatred against Spanish speakers. And it led to a lot of people that were stationed, soldiers that were stationed in foreign countries, to be mistreated and to not be allowed to return to the United States because of the racial animus attached to the name at the time.
Well,
so it was racist then. This is racist now. And we need to address how that is impacting Asian Americans in this country. And, last week, President Biden had the foresight to address that when he was speaking to the country in that 20-some-odd-minute address he gave about the relief package, the rescue package, as well as the hate rising in America against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. And this is what he said. President Biden used his primetime address to condemn anti-Asian racism and hate crimes against American, Asian, and Pacific Islanders in the wake of the COVID pandemic. He said he condemns these vicious hate crimes against Asian Americans and calls the attacks un-American. You are un-American if you are attacking people based on the color of their skin or where they were born. The kinds of crimes that we are seeing in this country were illustrated recently by NBA basketball player Jeremy Lin. I don't know much about his basketball career. I heard that he won a championship in 2019.
Okay.
But of course, I'm not a very big basketball fan, so I don't know a lot about basketball in general. But Jeremy Lee, repping for his community, discussed the animus that Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are facing. Take a look. The following is anti-American racism and description of violence.
We're tired. We're tired of our cries and anguish not being heard.
Show me what community looks like. Show me what.
We're tired of our pain being overlooked. We're tired of keeping our heads down or not making any trouble when our elders are being assaulted, stabbed, and killed. Wouldn't you be? The hate-fueled attacks on Asian Americans are disturbing. But why are we surprised? For many of us as Asian Americans in this country, we know what it feels like to be told we don't belong, that we're perpetually foreigners. And even though others try to minimize us to one entity, we represent so many different cultures, so many different backgrounds, so many different stories. What do you think happens next in a society where we've normalized xenophobia at the highest levels?
Trump's gonna you. You need to leave.
You do not talk to our guests like that. You need to leave.
Asian piece of
Oh my God.
People assign blame to those who don't deserve it. People are emboldened to vandalize Asian-owned businesses. People feel like it's okay to yell at you in public based on your race. Normalizing hate speech stokes the flames of racism and leads to an 84-year-old Thai grandfather lying helpless on the streets of San Francisco, left to die after being attacked. 84 years old. The next week, a 64-year-old grandmother assaulted in San Jose and a Filipino-American man slashed across the face in New York City. We're tired of this hateful violence. We're tired of talking about it, but we're not done speaking out. Far from it. Listen to your AAPI brothers and sisters. We must learn to love one another, to hear one another's anguish and actually care. Don't overlook the pain those around you are experiencing on a daily basis. Reach out to offer your support, to educate others, and let's put an end to this violence and hate together.
You don't really realize it or think about it, but Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have been experiencing a range of hate and violence that goes anywhere from just having people come up to them while they're out shopping or doing their jobs and tell them that they're responsible for the coronavirus and telling them to go back to their countries. They live in fear of getting a phone call from a relative that speaks a language, any other language than English, because they'll be attacked for speaking in another language.
Yeah.
The incidences that you just heard there, those people were attacked for just being in an Asian skin in America. They were attacked for breathing in Asian. That's what happens to these folks. Asian Americans. I'm going to share a Guardian report. This came from the Guardian about a 2021 report on Asian American hate incidences during the pandemic. And according to this report, which was compiled by the Stop AAPI Hate, which is a nonprofit coalition that's been tracking incidences of violence and discrimination in our country, there were nearly 3,800 hate-related incidences that have occurred during the pandemic. That's just in a one-year time period. A number that experts believe to be just a fraction of the real amount. And so from the 19th of March of 2020 to the 28th of February of 2021, when they tracked this information, Asian Americans from all 50 states experienced everything ranging from verbal abuse to physical assaults, getting coughed on, being denied services because of their ethnicity, and all of the other types of, discrimination that I was describing earlier. More than 68% of the abuse was verbal harassment or name calling, and about 11.1% of it was physical.
Wow.
Physical attacks. Women, by the way, report hate incidences 2.3 more times than men. So more than double the rate of men. And California and New York, the two states with the largest Asian American populations, have had the most reports of hate crimes, with 1,691 reported in California and 517 in New York. This is obviously something that is rampant. It's in every state in our country. It's something that has been fueled by hateful speech. But I think it's also really important for us to take into consideration the fact that this guy comes from a Christian family, and that his because religion is a role. It plays a role here. Remember, this man's motivation, according to the police, was that he was being tempted. And nothing makes you feel guilty about sinful temptations more than religion.
That's true.
Take a look at this from an article in which they're talking about his background. And this was in the Daily Beast. They're, not too familiar with everything about this person, but they talked to a fellow student who graduated from high school with Robert Aaron Long in 2017, and they told the Daily Beast that he was big into religion, and that his father was a youth minister or a pastor. And his parents are the ones that helped identify him. His parents saw the videos of him, surveillance videos, and called the police. And a neighbor of the family told the Washington Post that the whole family comes across as just a good Christian people.
Yeah.
And that they used to go to church on a regular basis. And nothing odd or bad was ever seen by this neighbor that would make her, feel uncomfortable. And according to this deleted Facebook pages from the church where he attended, indicate that he was baptized there and that he was a member of a youth group. Up until 2018, he was considered to be a member of the youth. So how do we have this good Christian boy, right, with obvious guilty feelings about his temptation for this sex, right, that he frequented these places? According to the police, he frequented these places, these spas. So we need to look at the religious zealotry, the aspect of the confluence of the religious zealotry that drove him to go cleanse himself of this temptation by, a bloodbath, a massacre of Asian women. He killed 6 Asian women. And the intersection with white supremacy and the intersection with the hierarchy of violence. Those are all things that we need to start talking about in this country, and that we will be talking about on my program, A Mexican Crossing Lines. And in fact, I'm going to be bringing you more context to the issue of the fight against supremacy in this country, in our judicial system, in our law enforcement, and in our activism. I've got a very interesting report about Sean King, Tamika Mallory, some of those activist lawyers that are defending cases of people or advocating for the cases of slain black people at the hands of police. On my next show here on Mexican Crossing Lines, but that is all I have for you tonight. I hope that this information has helped to educate you about the plight of what is going on in the American Asian and Pacific Islander community in America today at this moment, what has been going on, and why we have to have the courage to talk about these topics and call them what they are and hold people accountable to the crimes that they have committed. So thank you for being with us this evening here on A Mexican Crossing Lines. God bless. Get vaccinated, wash your hands, keep social distancing, and stay safe. Have a very good evening.
Yes, you have a very pleasant evening. Good night, everyone.
Good night, folks.